This video is the first in a short pre-course in drafts to help prepare for our short drafts course, which will introduce English drafts, also known as checkers, and also Russian drafts played on the same 8x8 board. In this video we will discuss the board and the important parts of the board for drafts and the placement of the pieces at the start of the game. So we can see here that drafts is played on the same board as is chess, an 8x8 board. However, the pieces only exist or only sit on the dark squares, and they move in a diagonal direction, diagonally. Now, there are two different types of corner on the board. This corner here is called a single corner, and there's the opposing single corner. This corner here is called a double corner because it has two dark squares in it, and this is the opposing double corner. So the double corner has two dark squares, the single corner has just one dark square. Now, because the board has a number of dark diagonals, then we can measure them and see how important different ones are. You can see this one here is the long diagonal. This is particularly important in Russian drafts, or drafts with flying kings that can move more than one square at a time. It's called the long diagonal. It has 8 squares in it. These two diagonals here have 7 squares. These are called the highway in English drafts or checkers, and are a means of safety for a single king against another single king, because in a double corner a king can always shift from one corner to the other without being attacked. And it is said that if he is on the highway, then he has a good chance of making it safely to this double corner or to this double corner. So these two long diagonals here into the double corner are called the highway. Then we can see this diagonal is 6. This diagonal has 6. So this is the shortest one. It isn't a diagonal really, it's just a single square. 1, 3, 5. And this one also has 5, and then 3 and 1. Then going in opposite directions we have 2, 4, 6, and the long diagonal is 8, 6, 4, and 2. So those decreasing lengths of diagonals become important, particularly in the Russian drafts endgames. So just to reinforce those areas on the board, we'll take a look using ChessBase with some arrows and see if we can just visualize it a bit better. So here we have the double corners, because there are two dark squares in the double corners. And then there, the two green boxes are the single corner. Now, these two diagonals here running into the double corners are called the highway. This is the long diagonal into the single corners. Now, in, for example, a 3 kings against 1 king ending in Russian drafts, if the single king can make it to the long diagonal and can just be cautious, then he can survive. So this long diagonal is a very important diagonal. So now, before we talk about how the pieces move and where they're placed, we can just take a moment to have a look at what kind of pieces can be used. So they're typically disc shaped. These ones are made of wood and are red and black. These are plastic and interlock nicely on top of each other when making kings. There's some more interlocking ones. These two sets here are Russian sets. So typically in the Slav and Russian variants, the man is turned upside down to make a king, and you can see that they look quite different when turned over. These ones are quite old, they're made of clay. They're baked and hardened clay pieces. These are shop bought bottle caps. They're just two different colors from bottle caps, and here are milk bottle caps of different colors. They can also be used. Here are some traditional wooden pieces here. Alternatively, we can look at playing electronically. So here we see a few apps. These are Windows applications, and we can go through them a little bit on the course as well. Okay. Now, just one more point on the board before we continue, and that is, this looks like a regular chessboard here, and indeed like a drafts board we're used to. However, you may see a board like this, which is a 10 by 10 board. Now, this is used for international drafts, and there are 20 pieces each on the board, so 4 rows of 5. So while quite similar to the 64 square version, such as Russian drafts or Polish drafts or Brazilian, the extra size of the board does make some of the tactics and strategy inherently different. So it's called international drafts. It's a 10 by 10 board. Now, this is the board we're going to use in the course. The pieces I'm using here are from the demonstration board, the magnetic demonstration board. And for kings, we may either use the same pieces with stars on them, or we may just flip these over, and then the magnet will be sufficiently different to determine that they're kings. So in the fully set up position, we can see that both sides have put their pieces on the first 3 rows on their side, only on the dark squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then another row of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And white has done the same thing. Now, the shape on the pieces looks a little bit different because of the opposite double corners. On the side of the board with the single corner, the 2 men line up like this, and on the side with the double corner, then there's a point, and the same opposite happens over here. So that's 12 pieces, only on the dark squares and only on the first 3 rows.